Okay, so the question is, what is a Bigfoot? So I'm going to do it by a process of elimination, yeah? And I'm also going to bring things into it. So let's talk about whether it's a physical or a spiritual being, because that's a big question. It's a physical being. Why is it a physical being? Because it leaves tangible physical evidence. For example, footprint, yeah? If you believe in a ghost doesn't leave footprints. So let's just break it down that way. So I think it's a physical creature. It has to be. Because, I mean, it'll have to consume food, yeah? It will have, and it leaves traces of its existence. So I think it's physical. What could it be? Well, that's the biggest question. That's the question that, not necessarily with Bigfoots here, but with these sort of hominins all over the world. The question I'm interested in, and for my own knowledge, is how sentient they are. So in other words, how much intelligence they have. For example, we know that, let me give you an example with Koko. So I've seen great apes in the wild, you know, gorillas, orangs and things like that. So they had Koko the gorilla in a zoo, and Koko had a pet cat. And when the keeper said, "What happened to your sink?" because her sink had been pulled from the wall, Koko answered in sign, yeah, because she could do sign, that it was her pet cat that had done it. No, it's not a very sophisticated lie, but you see the sentience there. And we underestimate the sentience of great apes, for example, the orang, that they can do 200 words a sign or more. So we don't think of them as intelligent as they really are. I think Bigfoot has a level of sentience which is not the same as ours, but higher than a great ape. If I had to guess, is somewhere in between. Now, it may well have unusual properties to it, which cause it to elude us. And you know, but that doesn't mean this. It doesn't mean it's some being which is necessarily metaphysical. So if I don't understand something, there's often, well, not me personally, but if we don't understand something, there's often a way, we often attribute it as being paranormal. So what do I mean by that is, if I brought a cigarette lighter out to you now, Charlie, and you were from 1066, you'd say, "Witch, burn him," you know? Oh, you might do. So it does, and nor do I think that you have to be pure of heart to see a Bigfoot, as some people say. And it's, you know, the reason you're not seeing one, Charlie, is because you're just not pure of heart enough, yeah? You know? I don't believe that. There's no species in existence where every single one of them is benevolent, you know? You know yourself, there are people who are nice people, there are people who are not so nice. With dogs, there are nice dogs, not so nice dogs, you know? And why would it be any different with Bigfoot? Why would they all be? I think that's just BS, designed to make people feel special and a manifestation of their own egos. Right. So I don't believe that either. So they'll have a personality, they'll be intelligent, they may have attributes that we don't know, and they may not, but I think that they're along those lines. All of it's assumptive, because I don't know, and I think it's important we say we don't know, but those are my best estimates right now.
I agree with you. One thing I like to say, they have a high environmental IQ, so to elude us, avoid us all these centuries, they know they got to keep their distance from us. So they're smart enough to adapt to their environments. They have these special, maybe, senses that help them become the ninjas of the forest,
yeah,
and keep their distance. But I believe it's through adaptation they have learned to kind of keep their distance enough.
Well, it's a bad move to constantly contact us, and I'll give you an example as well. So yeah, I mean, they may well, when we talk about hearing, for example, I think they probably have superior hearing to us, but that doesn't make them a mystical creature. It means they've just got better hearing than us, you know. And if you're specially adapted to the forest because that's the way you live, then you know that's it. I've spent time with the pygmies, for example. They could creep up on you right now, could stand behind you and Lindsay, and you wouldn't even know they were there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they learn. When I was with them in the Congo, I learned to be part of the forces, part of the forest. What you wouldn't necessarily get with forces training, survival training. I've done with the SAF. You wouldn't get that. Yeah. When I did it with ex-SAS members, survival training, you were taught how to survive. But the pygmies took it to a whole new different level. They taught me to be part of the forest, yeah?
Right.
So there's a difference. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think as well, there's one thing that I wanted to mention to you as well. There's a film coming out called Cryptic Expeditions, The Land Between the Lakes. And I was a part of that. And I found that very interesting. And it's a notable piece of Bigfoot research. And it didn't happen because of my careful planning or anybody else's careful planning. And I'm really glad it happened to Greg, who's the producer, because he had a lot of horrible things happen to him in the run up to it. And it's a small production. And I'm not making any money off this. Because people say, oh, he's after money. Nothing to do. I just think people who are interested in the topic of Bigfoot should watch the film. Mm-hmm. And I was in The Land Between the Lakes with Greg. We went down a day or two before. It's a synopsis of what happened. I'll keep some of the thing for the film. But we did some filming and it was nice. We had Brent, who's the photographer. We set a drone up, got this pretty sunset. We interviewed Martin Groves and Barton Nunnally, and the idea is we were going to go look for things with them. And then at the end of that day, we were satisfied. And I said, well, Martin, because he knew the LBL very well, I said, can you think of an area we could go where there's Bigfoot activity? And he said, oh yeah, there's an area about an hour from here if you don't mind going there. So I was like, yeah, we'll go there. And we go up, we drive over to this place, and he said it's a cemetery, and I was like, great, perfect, we'll do this, because we had zero expectation. You know what it's like, Charlie. Yeah. I mean, people will say it's not like the TV shows. Like 999 times out of 1,000 plus, I go out and nothing happens. Nothing, I get wet, or I see a tree, nothing happens. It's not like that in real life. Real research is nothing like TV shows. So we have zero expectation. And Janice is one of the camerawomen. She goes up on the hill with Martin and Barton, and me and Greg and Brent are just getting out the camera equipment. We weren't even ready for anything. And then this thing roars. And I mean, I can't emulate it, but it was coming from a chest cavity. Now remember, I've seen great apes in the wild, yeah? And you knew it was this volume coming from, and I was like, what the, it was like, it was that moment, that moment. And Brent freaks out and goes, we've got to get out of here, Greg, we've got to get out of here. Greg grabs his coat, and I'm glad that Greg did, because it was not a good situation. And Greg sees one to the side of us, and it was crouching down. And I was like, and then Janice is up on the top of the hill, and in retrospect, she was telling us there was at least one or two up there. And I had this realization: these things are flanking us, yeah. And I said, I don't want to do one of these films, like one of these ghost things where something happens and they all go, let's run, and everyone screams like that. I want to, let's go for it, So I stood in front of everyone and I moved forward, and each time I moved forward, we heard these roars, yeah. And then these sticks and things start coming across from the truck. Another truck where one of these things was, and it was dangerous. It felt dangerous. So I called Janice and the other two up from the hill. And I said, we've got to get together, yeah. And we got together, and these things gradually backed off, but they were aggressive. So this whole incident is on film.
Oh wow!
So I don't know exactly what they've got on film, because they won't be. They're editing it right now, and they're not going to tell me everything. But I do know they've got the growls on film in response to me moving forward. And I do know that they've got red eyes, about 9 feet tall, and several of them. Awesome. As they're coming around. So it's a unique piece of footage. Once again, I'm not making any money from it. I experienced it. It was Bigfoot. It's amazing. You should see it.
What is the name again?
It's Cryptic Expeditions: The Land Between the Lakes. You've got to watch it, people, because it was an incredibly powerful experience. What did I learn from that? I learned that, number one, you can see that personality, yeah? Number two, you can see that level of sentience, that thinking, and that ability to think and understand things. And number three, you can see that these things do have this strategic intelligence, this thinking capacity, this ability to withdraw, this high level of sophistication and coordination, which frankly astonished me. And it's all there in that film.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Atten.
All right, my pleasure, man.